You need to understand your own strength in terms of competencies. I always talk about that, introspecting. Where do you lie in that spectrum of DISC assessment or your Clifton Strength Finders? A lot of corporate teams, I used to build teams where I could say, here are the top 5 things that I'm good at out of the 40 skills that they lay out. How do I build a team that kind of complements me? Because I don't want the same 5 me.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to have a more holistic viewpoint on everything that we're doing.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I'm your host, as always, Yona Weiss, and I'm pleased to be joined today by Hemal Badiani, all the way out in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's great to have you on the show today, Hemal. What's going on?
I am super excited to be here, Yona, and talking to the man, the myth, the legend here. So appreciate you inviting me, and I look forward to a wonderful conversation here.
No, it's my pleasure. And for those of you who are watching this, Hemal's got a great background. Tell us a little about that virtual background you got behind you there. What is that representative of?
Yeah, it represents the fact that I want to be like Yona Weiss when I grow up. So I've got some work to do, a few more bricks to add to that background, but I'll get there eventually. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, awesome. We got that brick wall. It's nice to see the branded brick wall getting a little more visibility. But we'll give you guys a little bit of context. Who is Hemal? He's a great guy. He's been in had a really awesome career and decided out of nowhere recently to, after investing in real estate for many years, decided to just retire from his banking career, his career in corporate America, and go full time into his real estate company, Exponential Equity, which he founded and has, in a very short time, maybe you'll tell us a little more about this, Hemal, but in a very short time has acquired a lot of real estate, specifically multifamily. But let's just talk about that first step for a minute. I mean, retiring from your corporate America job and going full-time real estate. I know this was very recent. This episode is going to air in a couple of months from now, but I know this was a very recent announcement for you. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a long time coming. I think it was 4 years in the making, but it all started, it was climbing the institutional ladder back in my management consulting days, flying across 3 continents, working with really, really smart people, Fortune 100 CEOs from Disney theme parks to the Vatican, and learned a lot, helped them grow their businesses, tweak, bring efficiencies, mergers, acquisitions, product strategy, all of that. So phenomenal group of people to keep my mindset elevated in terms of the skills and competencies that I wanted to acquire and build on, and what I was good at, and how to interact with people, how to be diplomatic with a conversation, presentation, sales, negotiations, all the things that are useful. But at some point, I started introspecting on, what am I really doing, right? And there's that ladder, but it just keeps on. It's infinite. You can keep on doing it, or you can bring it in-house and really utilize to build something that I value as a company with my own culture of, people first versus profits, leaving a true impact in the firm. So that started a journey of moving away from management consulting down to the financial space, slowed down a little bit in terms of work hours, and really started dabbling into different businesses that I could build. I knew how to build businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know which one I wanted. So I started with an outsourcing company, then a lending firm, then a residential real estate, flipping houses. And all of them in a single year, I was able to scale to several employees, very profitable transactions, systems and processes and SOPs and all of that into it. Mm-hmm. But each one of them, I found that it wasn't something that was my true calling for several reasons. And so when I exited them, all of them, or each one of them in a profitable fashion, and I jumped into commercial real estate. This one was my true calling, and I was able to bring all those knowledge and experience from the last 2 decades together to build something that I really valued. Now we have 7 folks working with us full time, and they were kind of nudging me for several months. They were like, dude, our paycheck is coming from the company, yours is coming from the corporate world. What gives, right? So it was a months in preparation in terms of getting to that level where, including real estate professional status, getting the maximum tax deduction for this year,
Right.
setting up everything financially from my endpoint, and really take off at that stage. So it was a phenomenal day where I could say peace out to my company and jump right into what I've built for the last several months here.
That's amazing. And it just goes to show, when you have a dream, anything that you've experienced in life up to the point where you are right now, whoever's listening to this, I mean, wherever you've gone, wherever you've been, everything has contributed to leading up to who you are, where you are, what you know, and where you're going. And so if you can kind of like Hemal, like you said, take that time to make some introspection, think about what's your purpose here in this world? Like, what are you passionate about? What really do you want to be spending your time doing, and allow yourself to make that happen? Okay. And for you, obviously it took a number of years to build it and try different things until, like you said, you tried out different businesses, and what stuck is commercial real estate. So what is it about commercial real estate specifically, and this business that you've built, which now you've gone full-time into running, that you love so much?
Yeah, it's the scale factor. I always worked in Fortune 100 companies. So, I always tell my partners and employees, 1% of a billion and 100% of 10 million are the same thing. You just have to understand what type of business you want to be in. And $1 billion business operates very differently than a $10 million business, right? The structures, the processes, the training of the employees, the HR systems, the technology environments, all of that is different. And that's what I've operated in. And I truly believe in the commercial space, if you scale it right, very disciplined over several years, you can build a several $billion company in different spaces that allows you to be a global player in the market in an industry that is impactful because it brings so much to the communities of tenants and other people who are invested in it. B, brings a lot of jobs from an infrastructure standpoint, especially for development. C, it's global in nature with all the investments that we can do. And D, from a giving back perspective, right? Our vision is that eventually for the Exponential Giving, our charity organization that will make it big as we scale up. We want to invest in land that we would hold for climate change. We'll invest in forgiving people's taxes and helping people who might be losing their homes, for example. So there's so much you can do in a tangible industry like this, along with the scale it brings that personally I like to operate in. So that was a natural choice.
That's amazing. And it probably took some time until you obviously realized that it has all these opportunities. But I love the fact that you kind of touched on something that I don't think a lot of our, me personally and a lot of our listeners don't really grasp. I mean, for someone like you who has worked in, multi-billion-dollar corporations for your entire career, what is it like? I mean, and you described your goal to create $1 billion real estate company, which you're well on your way to doing. I mean, I think, you mentioned to me before the call, like you're already on your way to 100 million within the first 9 months of going going into this. So that's pretty impressive. But what is it about $1 billion company that, a corporation that does function different? I know you mentioned there's different operations, different things, but, from a practical perspective, like I wouldn't, obviously there are differences and one can recognize them, but maybe enlighten me a little more on that.
Yeah, it's the mindset of the senior leadership that has to be different, right? So, for example, if you think about a bank's accounting firm or the head of supply chain in a bank, they might be earning multiple 7 figures, right? They might be getting some vested stock in the company that make them part owners, but they don't own 50% of the small business that we would typically think about. So the ability for growth and control are inversely proportional, right? So if you want to grow exponentially, which is the name of our brand, incidentally, you have to give up the control on the mindset of, I'm just going to carve out 4 slices of this pie because it'll stay really small, that pie. If you think about creating a firm that is giving out vested stock and you create different divisions, that allows you to have across risk spectrum and different revenue generation streams. Like we are looking into new construction now, multifamily acquisitions is already on a roll. We're looking at other asset classes, self-storage, hotels. So tomorrow, we can be disciplined and saying, well, multifamily is too hot or something macroeconomically happened that allows us to slow down that division of the business. But from a revenue stream perspective, from an equity ownership perspective, whoever's invested the time and effort, they're still getting paid. Mm-hmm. And they're still reaping the benefits of other divisions working. We get to reinvest those profits into supply chain, technology, HR, all of those elements. So when you're thinking about just a handful of employees, you typically think about having a couple of A players as salaried employees, a couple of equity partners, and everything's kind of sliced transactionally 3-4 ways. Right. You think bigger than that, that's when you start creating a company that has multiple layers of management, and divisions in its true sense that you can operate from.
Amazing. So, I mean, it is really, it is a different animal than your typical syndication partners that we see going around a lot in this community, right? You see a lot of these people who are, like you said, they're really how you described it. They're transactional, even though they may have partnerships formed, various forms of partnerships, but are taking down deals on kind of a 1-by-1 stance, and may have an employee or 2 or 3, and maybe growing like that. But I think the way that you're organically creating it from the beginning with that potential. Right, like you said, the exponential potential is already there because of the framework that you're creating. I think you have a great advantage, I would say, over a lot of other people in the space because of your background and because of the corporate, experience that you've had.
Yeah, and that vision, right? There's nothing wrong with the other operating model or business model. You can make a lot of money, and you can have a couple of decades of transactional elements, and you might even be able to live in Hawaii and work from your laptop, right? I have no desire of doing that, at least for now. I want to build something that I'm ready to outwork a lot of people. I'm ready to put that 70, 80-hour weeks for the next 10 years to build that company that has that infrastructure, because it takes, again, a different level of discipline and competency to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's just a choice along with the experience that has allowed us to at least move in that direction.
Amazing. And I know, obviously a lot of these companies already exist, and you're not rebuilding, even within business in general, obviously these exist, but even within real estate, commercial real estate, there are, hundreds of companies like this that exist with the existing model. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel by any shape or form. It's different within, our community of syndicators that kind of play the game and go all along the podcast, wheel of fortune, if you will. So it's always great to have a different perspective and a breath of fresh air in that, because again, like you said, it's the vision. It's about creating something much bigger than yourself, and that's, everyone has different goals, and I think that's really the main thing, because everyone's going to do something differently. For me, I wouldn't want to do that. That's just not who I am. It's not what I have. I don't have a vision for that, but I wouldn't even, want to go into that. My goal for investing in real estate is totally different than someone else's. And each person has their own whys and their own, reasons for doing things. And I think that's what's so special about, about everyone, is that we all, we're all trying to find our best way.
Yeah, exactly. Agree.
What would you say for someone who is listening to this, that, maybe some advice or something, who is maybe considering, maybe they're in the corporate world, maybe they're doing management consulting, maybe they're in finance or whatever it is, and they've maybe invested a little bit in real estate, either passively, or maybe they own a single family or 2 or 3, and they're thinking of, how can they get involved? Like, to be, get out of the corporate world and to do something more. I mean, the funny thing is, you're not really getting out of the corporate world. You're creating your own corporation. Right?
That's well put. Yeah, I think first knowing your strengths, right? Is this really what you want to do, right? Corporate world is comfortable. The paycheck comes every 2 weeks. It's like an addiction that may or may not be something that might be part of your season of your life for now, right? Young kids or private education or other things that might be holding you back. You need to understand your own strength in terms of competencies. I always talk about that, introspecting. Where do you lie in that spectrum of DISC assessment or your Clifton Strength Finders? A lot of corporate teams, I used to build teams where I could say, here are the top 5 things that I'm good at out of the 40 skills that they lay out. How do I build a team that kind of complements me? Because I don't want the same 5 me.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to have a more holistic viewpoint on everything that we're doing. And allows us to move forward in a more disciplined and rigorous, structured fashion, right? And the third thing is, you hopefully you get to test drive. Some people jump in, both feet in. I got a little bit of test driving before I left my job into multiple businesses that I was successful at. Because my point is if you don't enjoy and truly passionate about what skill set and what lane you are in within that business, it sounds very cliched. 90% of all the things we do is grunt work, right? You gotta edit your podcast. You gotta post it out, right? I gotta build my business day in, day out. I gotta crunch my newsletter. There's so much. I have to pick that phone up for every investor that we are communicating with. And 90% of it is truly, truly grunt work. And anybody who says otherwise is lying. And so if you're truly not passionate about what you're trying to do, it becomes another job. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be in that, not at least if you're trying to get away from one. So Know yourself, know your season, find your passion, hopefully get to test drive it and plunge in.
No, that's awesome. I love how you break it down. I mean, you have, just in this short conversation, I see already, you have such a skill of being able to just put together those bullet points, to describe anything, right? So that's pretty awesome. One more question along those lines. Actually, let's kind of transition a little bit, but still along the same lines in terms of, you mentioned the, potential diversification of the business model where, you're looking at multiple asset classes and seeing multiple streams of revenue coming into the business. What are some of those and why do you think they are currently at least important?
Yeah, we just had finished our 2-day retreat a couple of weekends back, so end of April 2021, where we took all the 7 folks, went out for 2 days up in the mountains and did what is called a SWOT analysis, right? With strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And we looked at focus areas for the next 90 days. So we can all put goals individually on each division of the business. Where do we want to be in marketing? Where do we want to be in investor relations, acquisitions, etc.? And one of the things we talked about was a risk spectrum, right? Multifamily is an amazing asset class. It's uber hot, lots of free money out there, lots of institutional buyers. And so we right now go through 150 deals a month to submit 3 to 5 offers. And that takes a lot of time, right? Mm-hmm. And we want to buy 1 or 2 a quarter. And if we can buy $40 million, $50 million assets, 1 or 2 a quarter, that sets us up where we want to be. So we're excited about that, but it takes 400 to 500 opportunities to evaluate to get to one that at least we like. Mm-hmm. And so from a risk spectrum standpoint, not getting frustrated or not getting disciplined about that. If we don't buy something for 6 months, how do we create a company again that we are not just transactional, everybody just looking at one thing to buy every quarter and we're done, but build something that allows us to have the engine humming. And so to that end, we're looking at new development, both of townhomes and self-storage, us based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Most of our partners and employees are based in Charlotte, North Carolina, so allows us to avail of that proximity of the super, super hot market of the Carolina
market. Yeah.
So we're excited. We can buy distressed land. We can go through 6-8 months of rezoning process. So we have contingency built in, working with the city to buy residential land, make it commercial, and then build on it. So it allows us to have that moat or contingency in that process to be disciplined with our price. And then we're looking at other aspects like self-storage, which we believe is a super resistant, recession resistant, and more automated, more scalable class of assets. So we're building that competency now. And lastly, we've got a couple of operators here in the hotel space. They own 6 to 8 properties. Hotels now, since spring break, are coming back in roar. And there's a lot of private equity funds that are looking to buy, good enough floating hotels, knowing the trend that people are just frustrated and they want to get out, and they want to be in places now. And, vaccines are coming in. 30% of the population in the United States is vaccinated. So we are in a good spot where that industry is going to kick up. And we want to be on the good side of having that. It's such a niche market. It's only 3% of the commercial portfolio overall. And a good operator who owns several assets was able to float it during these pandemic times, partnering with them, bringing them to our brand and scaling them up from 6 to 60 would be a great vision to have. So that's where we are.
That's amazing. And each one of those individual, is it like you said, it's a business unto itself.
The division. Yep.
Each own division. And which is why, again, you don't find many operators, right, coming at it from that perspective. That let's just take on multiple streams, multiple different divisions all at once. And I think that's going to help you to scale a lot faster. And
even how we build the division has been very systematic. I'll spend 30 seconds on it. Coming from the consulting world, we do is we gather competitive intelligence. So even before we bought our first multifamily asset, we invested our money where our mouth was in 3 different operators. So we kind of figured out, okay, what do they do in terms of reporting and communication, and what's the best practice, so to speak, that we could imbibe into our culture and our process. And then we did, junior partnership once or twice that allows us to have that foot in the door from a property management conversation standpoint, vendors, suppliers, relationships, etc. And then we take the training wheels off and do our thing soup to nuts. And everything eventually comes in-house. But that's the process. It's a 3-pronged approach. Learn the business, get the training wheels on, see what the others are doing, very close proximity, on almost like an apprentice type of position for a handful of months, and then change the game plan where we are the lead sponsors on it.
Amazing. Now, would someone who's maybe not in your financial position, do you think that something like that is still possible for someone to do?
Yeah, I think the 2 things that make any business work is deals are money, right? Or customers are money, right? And I think that's the entry point in any business, let alone real estate. If you haven't some way of acquiring something off market, even if it's a one-off, hey, my neighbor is selling something because their generational family is now no longer interested or competent to work on this, and who can buy it, and let me have a small slice of the pie so that I can learn what you all are doing.
Right.
That's the conversation we have almost on a weekly basis.
Interesting.
And it doesn't have to be just, hey, let me invest with you so I can learn. And we are not in the coaching or educational business, but there's a lot of people who spend some money in terms of learning some of that and gets you 15, 20% there. But at some point, the last 80% or the majority of the time is to be in that, on the job training has to be there. And if you don't find a way to get the front door, it's harder to just learn from theory on the day-to-day problem solving and fires that you need to put out in terms of true operations that you have to go through. And this business nowadays, when you think about, you're not going to get any discount in the next 5 years in multifamily, especially. So the way to earn money and maximize profit is that decade of that operator, right? You got to think about how to build those operational efficiencies, how to be creative, and that's another whole conversation on how to get creative incomes in to maximize your expense gain so that your NOI gets, net operating income gets impacted, your profitability goes up because you're not getting a disc, you're not buying things at 60 cents on the dollar, right?
Right.
So there's only two ways of earning money: buy things right, or reduce the expenses or increase the rents.
100%. It's an excellent perspective. I love that. This has been extremely enlightening. Hemal, I want to transition right now into the final four. So these are four questions that I ask all my guests. And the first question for you is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
Oh man, I still remember it. I think I have the T-shirt for this one. Landed from India at the age of 19, lived like a prince there, landed here in UNC Charlotte, and got a job at Chick-fil-A. I was filleting or spreading the frozen chicken patties back in the freezer, and I lasted about 20 days before I begged the guys at Burger King and Pizza Hut to take me, transfer me. And that seemed easier to fry burger patties than filleting chicken. But that was the worst one.
Oh man, yeah, that's horrible. That's what you got to do sometimes to make a buck.
Yes. That you remember those?
Absolutely. Definitely remember those. So second question, what's a book that you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich has been the defining one, along with the 7 Habits very recently over the last couple of years, as I was seeking where I would find satisfaction and fulfillment. I was like a college kid. Back in college, I'd read Think and Grow Rich, didn't grasp it, to be honest. And this time around, when I read it, I was marking down sentences. I'm like, wow, that is unbelievable, and such a powerful thought and notion that one can subscribe to. And that has been the Bible for me, or the book of choice for me to go with in terms of going back to, or at least if I think about my kids reading at some point, those are the two books. Think and Grow Rich and 7 Habits of Successful People.
Yeah, absolutely. They're both on the top of my reading list, of my book list, also of classic, great books as well. So excellent choices. Thank you for bringing those up. If anyone listening wants to check those out, those will be in the show notes. You can check out those 2 books, which I highly recommend as well. Oftentimes we'll get a new book that I've never heard of or never read before. So I'm grateful to you that I don't have to add on to my reading list.
Yes, those are too long for folks who kind of note down all the books. I have a big reading list that I need to get onto at some point.
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, almost every episode I add another one to it. So it just awesome. It's continuously growing. But third question: what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
Playing guitar. That's been. I'm very good at air guitar. I can emulate Slash or any good rock musician. But the real thing, I missed out an opportunity during my younger years when my parents encouraged me and my brother to take up music in some fashion. My brother did, I didn't. I thought it was a waste of time, and at some point, it's just one of those things, right? It's with you. You work on it. It gives you that peace, the meditation. It's an art. It's creative, and so I'm really passionate about doing that. Now that I've left my corporate world, I'm going to find a slice of time that allows me to embark on that path consistently. Maybe in a few years' time, I might come and play on this show.
There you go. We'll schedule it in. That's exciting. We'll make we'll make a band of all the people that have mentioned putting an instrument on the Weiss Advice podcast as their talent.
Maybe it's your birthday. We play Happy Birthday on or something.
We'll call it the Weiss Advice Orchestra. That's awesome. Fourth and final question for you is: what does success mean to you?
It's a very big question. I think I measure my success on a daily basis, right? It's how I served others, how I treated my family, how I lived up to my own potential on a daily basis, and what impact could I have overall on this planet as a speck of organism that I am in this entire cosmos, but a slice of the cosmos. And so it's not material. It's not tangible. It's more, what have I done to give back? Where have I spent my energy? And that's how I measure myself in terms of being successful for the night or day or not.
Yeah, that's awesome, because there are really so many things we can point to in our daily lives that we can measure if we just look. And I think most people think of success as more of like a macro thing, like something I want to get to, right? But really, like you said, it's really a daily thing. Like you should be daily working towards that and being successful in your interactions with others. Yeah. So absolutely. I love that answer. So finally, Hemal, as we come to a close here, where can our listeners find you or reach out to you?
Yeah, our brand is exponential-equity.com. So check out the website, sign up for the club. And if you want to reach out to me personally, my email address is Hemal, Hemal @exponential-equity.com. Look forward to connecting with any or all of your listeners. I'm sure you have quite a following from LinkedIn and Facebook and other social media accounts that I don't even follow. And love to interact with people, real estate or otherwise.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you again. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well. And thank you for taking the time out today. I appreciate it. I know you're extremely busy. You got a lot going on. And so I do just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'm super grateful for the interaction as well. Thank you.
My pleasure. And to all our listeners, remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.